All around the floor, people are talking about this. They see that we're dysfunctional. Bad process builds bad policy, builds bad politics. And if you take my word for it, look at the omnibus bill that we just passed, a $1.3 trillion deficit spending bill that the president said he shouldn't have signed, and he should have trusted his instincts.
Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, as reliable a barometer of mindless conventional wisdom as exists on planet Earth, explained it this way in a recent interview, quote, "A confidential informant is not a spy." Well, Senator Graham did not explain what exactly a confidential informant is, if not a spy, because, of course, they're one and the same. A confidential informant is someone who is informing confidentially, in other words, spying. And any senator who pretends otherwise is prevaricating, in other words, lying.
The legislation I'm signing today rolls back the crippling Dodd-Frank regulations that are crushing community banks and credit unions nationwide.
What exactly does the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act actually do? Well, it eases regulations on some big banks. Smaller banks get relief from the Volcker rule, and it's going to give consumers the right to free credit freezes.
It's not going to do everything we want, but it's definitely a big step forward in reducing some of the burdensome regulations that Dodd-Frank imposed on our small community banks, our credit unions. It's going to increase lending opportunities for small businesses, which are really important. As you know, they create nearly 70% of the new jobs in my community. And it's going to be a great enhancer to the tax reform, which is proving to be a real winner for small businesses in my community. So we're very, very excited about it. And stress testing, we're giving a little relief to the banks on that side of it. Especially one of the things that I'm supporting is the stress testing relief on small community banks. That's one of my bills. That rolls back, so instead of having to go through the stress testing and examination period every 18 months, smaller banks, the local banks that we have, Tioga Bank, Bank of Utica, which is one of the great banks in my community, those banks will now only have to go through an 18-month regulatory process instead of 12. We've lessened sort of the load on businesses, on small banks when it comes to lending, commercial and residential lending, and dealing with escrow accounts particularly.
Yeah, we lose about a credit union a day, and it's mostly because the regulatory burden. It's so expensive to deal with all those regulations that have been promulgated.
But here's the deal, is that we can pass a bad farm bill, but we can't pass a bad immigration bill. And you are right. Those people are selling us out in regards to the process of immigration. This is a complex issue. Everybody's here for legal immigration. But the process here has to go through that very basis. There's plenty of opportunities to make changes, but leadership refuses. It's just repeating history.
Well, and by the way, it's straightforward. Paul Ryan has told you all to go to hell and just accept what Mother Paul wants to hand you when it comes to the midterm elections. He acts like he's the one who raises the money for the Republican conference. My God, the Speaker is always the chief money raiser for the Republican conference. So I don't even understand the reasoning about why anybody would even hesitate, be trepidatious in any way, not to follow your lead.
Well, the process is so broken here, and everybody, as you know, are scurrying to save their seats. This should be more than trying to save your seat. This should be about the oath of office that you took at the beginning of the session, uphold the Constitution and the rule of law. That's what it should be all about, Lou, but we're not seeing it.
Well, it's an interesting situation because there is both a Queen of the Hill resolution that's pending that would take power away from the Speaker of the House, put it in the hands of the minority to bring an immigration bill to the floor, and also a discharge petition for that resolution. Right now, as I understand it, Speaker Ryan is working with both centrist Republicans and more conservative Republicans to craft a legislative fix for DACA and for border security that will get a majority of the Republicans and will also pull along some Democratic votes.
65 years since President Eisenhower, on his promise to go to Korea, negotiated a truce between North Korea and South Korea. Since then, we've had 10 presidents, both parties, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, with varying degrees of commitment and intensity. They've all tried to deal with resolving Korea. They've spent time. They've used learned professionals, wise academics, businessmen who know, and business persons who know the area. And even after that, there are no major breakthrough that's happened. And
we shouldn't assume that China wants this whole crisis with North Korea to end. It ties down most of our forces in the Far East rather than focusing on China in the South China Sea. And it makes China an extremely important interlocutor because without China, economic sanctions on North Korea are not going to be very effective. So China may be a little bit concerned about a warming of relations between the U.S., South Korea, and North Korea, and may have put the brakes on themselves via the North Koreans. The point is, the U.S. has to insist on denuclearization. But as the president said in talking about this can be a step-by-step process. In fact, there's no other way to do it. But the U.S. has to keep its sights on the eventual target, which is denuclearization, and the North Koreans have to be held at least to a theoretical commitment to do so, or this isn't going to go very far. But more importantly, there's a real chance to make progress. Kim Jong-un obviously wants this, otherwise he wouldn't have released the prisoners. So the president is right to have pulled out now, but in his letter to Kim Jong-un, he kept the door open. That's a very smart way to go forward at this point, and I think we should be comfortable seeing what happens next.
Everything on the table. Where's Jim Jordan? Who is going to be the speaker? Who's going to step up here?
First of all, there's plenty of people now asking around the country. You know, the speaker is third in line to the presidency. This shouldn't be done behind closed doors. This should be done with America having a breath and a take in it. If they want to drain the swamp, this is a perfect opportunity to get involved and get it done now.
Hillary Clinton will always be there for you. And just remember, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other.
Your reaction, Congresswoman?
Well, first of all, she's not there for me, and she never was as our senator. But I think it's a beautiful marriage that the queen of pay-to-play is now endorsing the king of pay-to-play, and you'll see where that got you. I mean, Andrew Cuomo has nearly destroyed New York State economy just with the literally aggressive, progressive regime that has caused our small businesses to close and many of them to leave. And look what it's borne out. We have over $8 billion spent in what I call cronyism, pay-to-play money. We've got 8 federal corruption charges that are trials actually that are carrying on this year during his campaign. And we have the largest outmigration of people in the entire nation. And what do we have for our $8 billion that we spend in cronyism? We're dead last in job creation. So thank God for the tax reform.